From stories around the world to stories here at home, this is the National News Broadcast. A pleasant evening. I'm Dilanjali Ananda.
I'm Movin Hettiarachi, and here are today's headlines. The President directs health authorities not to inconvenience any COVID patient. Intelligence unit disclosed that 120 protests conducted last month contributed to the spread of COVID. The Health Ministry says the number of COVID patients is increasing. Minister Sri Rajapaksha says foreign exchange will be saved by limiting imports and increasing local production. Italy wins the men's 4x100 and Jamaica wins the women's event.
For those and other stories in detail. President Kottu Rajapaksha has directed health authorities today not to inconvenience any COVID patient arriving at hospitals. The number of patients arriving at hospitals in several cities, including Colombo, has increased. The President has emphasized that the patients should not be inconvenienced when assessing them. President Kottu Rajapaksha mentioned this during the Special COVID Prevention Committee meeting on vaccination and future operations at the Presidential Secretariat this morning. Intermediate treatment centers have been prepared at several cities with the aim of preventing any infected person being inconvenienced. The President pointed out the need to take the persons who show symptoms first to intermediate treatment centers and thereafter directing them to hospitals after assessing the condition of the patient. The President said the ministers, state ministers and health authorities should directly intervene to prepare a methodology to prevent patients being inconvenienced at hospitals. The President said that the responsibility of health experts is a constantly advise the public over media to refrain from being infected. It has been decided to give the first dose for persons above 30 years at any center that is giving the second dose of the COVID vaccine. Orders have been made enabling to give both vaccine doses to persons above 18 years before September. The government is prepared even to give a third dose. Consultant Dr. Prasanna Gunasena said it is regretting to see that the public support is minimum in preventing the spread of the disease. There had been 120 protests island-wide during the past month. More than 1,500 people have taken part in each protest. Intelligence units pointed out that such public gatherings ignoring health advice have accelerated the spread of COVID. Many persons who are involved in COVID prevention operations daily take indigenous medicines, which strengthens immunity. State Minister Sri Lanka pointed out that taking indigenous medicine daily and inhaling steam helps to minimize being infected with COVID-19. Ministers Gamni Lakuge, Bandula Gunawardana, Rohita Abe Gunawardana, Ramesh Patrana, State Ministers Sudarshini Fernandapulle, Sisira Jayakodi, MP Madhura Vithanage, President's Chief Advisor Lalit Viratunga, Health Secretary Major General Dr. Sanjeeva Munasinghe, Director General of Health Services Dr. Asela Gunawardana, Armed Forces Commanders, the IGP, Security and Health Authorities attended the meeting. Deputy Director of Health Services Dr. Hemantha Herat says that according to the special circular which was issued by the Director General of Health Services, all travellers should mandatorily carry a negative COVID-19 PCR test report in English language issued within 72 hours prior to the embarkation.
A circular has been issued on 6th of June by the Director General of Health Services with regards to the quarantine measures for travellers arrived from overseas during this pandemic and quarantine measures for fully vaccinated Sri Lankans or dual citizens who have a residence or home in Sri Lanka. With regard to this one, if a person is undergone the complete vaccination process and spend required time after completion, the recommended time duration is completed, they are eligible to use this facility, provided that they are not coming from certain countries like India, Vietnam, and South African and South American countries. If they can provide the proof of completing the vaccination process through a verifiable measure or document, they can be given this facility under these guidelines. And this also includes how they should handle the citizens' children and their family members who will be coming together with them, especially if the children below 2 years, they have been discharged with fully vaccinated Sri Lankans or dual citizens by adhering the following measures. measures. That is, if there are children below 12 years, children of 2 years or to 12 years should be subjected on arrival PCR testing and they should have negative results. That is one important aspect. Then children below 2 years will not be subjected to PCR testing. So this will be applicable to Sri Lankans and dual citizens who possess a reasonable facility of their own to undergo home quarantine at their residences or their homes. With regard to the oxygen demand, there has been reports that oxygen demand has been increased by manyfold. There are obvious reasons for that. Firstly, the number of cases have increased and proportionately the number of people who require oxygen therapy has increased. One observation was that the percentage of people who are going into critical state has relatively gone up, and that may be the reason why we need more oxygen. The third important factor is we are more and more closely monitoring in an objective manner the oxygen requirement of the people using the equipment used for this to measure the oxygen requirement in an objective manner. As a result, we have been able to provide the oxygen therapy early to those people who require the oxygen therapy. So as a result, a longer duration of oxygen therapy is carried out in many people, and as a result also the oxygen requirement has increased. There is a risk of spreading the disease among the populations or communities who have undergone or affected by the recent flood and other adverse weather conditions. Some of them have been evacuated to safe locations and some pending their safe locations of their own, probably in their relatives' houses and other places. So there is a possibility of mixing people among these communities, and as a result the possibility of spreading the disease among these people become relatively high. And as a result, we have already instructed the district and provincial authorities and the regional epidemiologists to take this into consideration and to take appropriate measures to ensure that there will be no undue or unwanted or excessive spread of disease because of these adverse weather conditions, and people are affected by such adverse weather conditions.
Meanwhile, police spokesman DIG Ajit Rohana urges the public to visit the police field headquarters at Colombo 4 in order to receive the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine.
General public are kindly requested to come to Police Field Force Headquarters Colombo 4 to get the second dose of AstraZeneca vaccine. But they should come along with their ID card and the vaccination card in respect of the first dose. 93 persons have been arrested in connection with the offences of quarantine rules and regulations within a period of last 24 hours. Total number of 53,359 persons have been arrested in connection with the same offences since the 30th of October 2020 to date. We are conducting continuous operation, especially the quarantine restriction order has been posed in respect of inter-provincial movements. Therefore, we are going to strengthen the officers of the roadblocks of entry and exit points of provinces, especially in respect of the Western Province. And yesterday, 86 persons have been sent back to their original positions, original places, along with 59 vehicles as they were trying to cross the provincial border. In addition to that, we have instructed our traffic police officers to conduct operations in order to trace the drivers, conductors and assistants of public transportation who violates quarantine rules and regulations in transporting passengers.
Police spokesperson Senior DIG Ajit Rohana also says that Sri Lanka police have arrested student activists for their unlawful involvement in protests which were taking place near the parliament. He further says that Wasanta Mudalige, the convener of the Inter-University Students' Federation and the chairman of Sri Jayawardhanapura University Students' Federation, Amila Sandeepa, are among the arrests.
Number of protest campaigns had been conducted during the last 5 days in Colombo and in the suburb areas. Yesterday, Thalangam police has arrested 5 suspects in connection with the protest campaign conducted on the 3rd of August 2021 at Battaramulla in the vicinity of Parliament area. Earlier, suspects had been arrested by police and they were produced before the magistrate in respect of the offences of unlawful assembly, vandalizing the public road. And in addition to that, in this particular incident, OIC Maharagama Chief Inspector Janakanta was critically injured and he has lost his 2 fingers. Yesterday, another 5 suspects have been arrested in connection with the same incident. Among them, Chairman of the Students Association of the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, Amila Sandeepa, the convener of Inter-University Federation, Vasanta Kumara, and other 3 persons have been arrested. The 3 persons are the drivers who carried persons from various origins such as Madirigiriya, Peradeniya, and Tissamaharama. The suspect would be produced before Kaduwela Magistrate today. In addition to that, Cinnamon Garden Police has arrested 3 suspects in connection with the protest campaign conducted yesterday near Soisa roundabout Colombo 7, and they would be produced before the Halsdorf Magistrate today. Further investigations are being conducted.
The Health Ministry says that recording of the number of patients has increased. Deputy Director General of the Health Services, Dr. Hemant Herath, says that the percentage of patients who show symptoms and the percentage of patients who need oxygen has also increased. Meanwhile, the health guidelines on conducting weddings have been amended with effect from 12 midnight today. Head of the National Operations Centre to Prevent COVID-19, Army Commander General Shavendra Silva, says that permission will be given to hold weddings with a limit of 150 persons in a hall with more than 500 seats. The number of guests should be limited to 100 in a hall with a seating capacity of less than 500. The Ministry of Public Services, Provincial Councils and Local Government Administration has issued the circular explaining the method to be followed when calling staff for duty at public institutions. According to the circular, pregnant women and mothers who have infants less than 1 year should not be called for duty. The heads of organizations have also been entrusted with the responsibility of not calling for services persons with symptoms, persons who are not suitable to call due to special reasons, using for alternative official service, and allowing to workplace at close to home. State Minister Dilungu Amnugama says that steps will be taken to operate bus and train services from Monday according to the new shifts. Uh, 1,910 COVID-19 patients were detected from the country today. Meanwhile, 1,942 patients left the hospitals today following recovery. Director of Immunology and Molecular Biology Unit of the Sri Jayawardhanapura University, Dr. Chandima Jeevandara, says that 75% of the infected persons found from Colombo city limits has been infected with the Delta variant. A series of guidelines has been issued to look after persons infected with COVID-19 but without complications from age of 2 to 65 years who do not show symptoms or who show minor symptoms at home under medical service supervision. The patients will be managed through 24-hour hotline 1390. Through this, a patient can get treatment from home for 14 days under medical supervision. If conditions become worse, such patients will be admitted to hospitals. The aim is to minimize overcrowding by unnecessary admittance of patients to hospitals. If a person is identified as a COVID patient following PCR test or an antigen test, such persons will be examined according to the health criteria given to the regional health medical officer, and steps will be taken to treat at home or to hospitalize. If a patient takes treatment at home, consent should be expressed. The guideline has pointed out the manner to manage patients at homes. Steps have been taken to computerize registration of patients. Accordingly, the information gets linked to a main telephone center. After confirming the information of the patient taken through the telephone center, the patient will be examined by consultant doctors through the main telephone center. The medical advice will be provided to patients and information taken will be computerized. If a patient needs further treatment, such patients will be sent immediately to hospital, or a treatment center according to condition. Steps have been taken to maintain patient monitoring activities through the medical officer's office of the area after releasing the patient following 14 days. The Health Ministry says that the number of pregnant women infected with COVID-19 has increased during the last 3 weeks. Samples were taken today at Beerwell Urban Council premises for PCR and rapid antigens test. Out of 300 persons subjected to rapid antigen tests, 91 were found to be infected with the virus. Parliamentarians Tissa Kuttiarachchi, Rohana Dissanayake and Dilip Vedarachchi have been infected with COVID-19. Former MP Ranjan Ramanayake has been infected with the virus and he is under treatment at the present COVID treatment centre. The Immigration and Immigration Department says several officers of their staff have been infected. Accordingly, issuing of passports under normal services has been temporarily suspended. Steps have been taken to issue passports in the one-day service only for essential services. Venerable Dr. Bodhagama Chandima Thera has been handed over 300 oximeters to Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksha today. Two million Sinopharm vaccine doses were brought to the country this morning. The consignment of vaccine was taken this morning to Colombo Central Vaccine Store. The opportunity has been given today to persons who do not have received the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine to get it at Bambalapitiya Police Field Headquarters. Giving the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine to residents in the Western Province commenced on the 1st of this morning. 447,721 vaccine doses have been given so far. The vaccination program at Vihara Mahadevi Park in Colombo is taking place for 24 hours today as well. 13,456,335 doses of the vaccine have so far been inoculated on people under the COVID immunization program. 31,323 persons have received the first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine yesterday. 26,067 persons have received the second dose of the same vaccine yesterday. 79,182 persons have also received the first dose of the Sinopharm vaccine yesterday. The number of those who received the second dose of the same vaccine yesterday was at 6,878. First dose of the Pfizer vaccine has been received to 41,156 persons yesterday. 76 persons have received the second dose of the same vaccine. Meanwhile, President Kottu Rajapaksha called over the new Mahanayaka of the Sri Lanka Amarapura Nikaya Agga Maha Pandita, Most Venerable Dodampaha Chandasri Thera. The President called over him at Rajgiriya Kalupaluava Tappovana Meditation Center. The President appreciated the services of the Amarapura Mahanikaya to the Buddha Sasana and to the society and said the government and he will give full support to continue the services. The President also made an entry on the guest book. The Maha Sangha chanted Set Pirit and invoked blessings on the President. The Maha Sangha, led by Registrar of the Sri Lanka Amarapura Sangha Sabha Venerable Pallekanda Ratnasara Anunayaka Thera, was present on the occasion.
Minister Sarath Veerasekara says that police have been instructed not to obstruct protests of teachers. Meanwhile, it was revealed in Parliament today that a teacher in Bandarawela who took part in protests has died, being infected with COVID-19. MP Nalin Bandara said that they went to see the teachers being kept by the harbour police. He said they were not allowed to proceed. He added they went to support teachers in a respectable manner. Minister Sarath Veerasekara said that after teachers were arrested, permission was given for 2 lawyers to visit them in the night itself. Police were instructed to look after their needs. Police were told if anyone gives goods near the gate to hand it over to the teachers. However, MP Nalin Bandara made an acting part by taking a sack of goods. If it wanted to visit, he could have taken permission from the harbour, or it could have been given at the gate. There were 17 women, but there was only 1 sack of goods.
Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksha says that foreign exchange will be saved by minimizing imports and increasing local productions. The minister mentioned this while attending a function today to issue 2 medicines produced locally by the State Pharmaceutical Corporation. Tramadol and levothyroxine medicines were issued to the market today. By stopping importing of those medicines, Sri Lanka will be able to save about 88 million rupees annually. The Minister Basil Rajapaksha said that steps were taken to limit the importation of selected 16 food items as a primarily step of building an economy based on local productions, according to President's Vistas of Prosperity manifesto. He said that the government is launching a methodical program for the benefit of the production sectors, including manufacturing of pharmaceuticals. He said that the previous government has left a huge amount of debt to be paid to state and private institutions, and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, who was the finance minister before him, took steps to pay the debts. The finance minister disclosed that 1,945 million rupees that had to be paid for Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Corporation was paid. Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksha said that 20% of the medicines used in Sri Lanka is produced locally, and the government expects to increase it to 50%.
Exposition of the crystal gem and the pinnacle to be placed on top of the Anuradhapura Sangha Hirusaya commenced yesterday at Hunupitiya Gangarama Temple in Colombo amidst the blessings of the Maha Sangha. The motorcade carrying religious items arrived at the Gangarama temple at an auspicious time amidst religious blessings. Religious rituals were conducted under the patronage of Gangarama temple Registrar Venerable Dr. Kirinde Asajitera. The pinnacle and the crystal gem are being displayed until the 8th of next month for the people to pay their homage. Thereafter, the procession carrying these items will be taken around the country for 47 days, covering 18 districts to display them at 48 temples. The renowned businessman Arthur Sinanayaka donated the crystal gem to be placed on the pinnacle of Sangha Hirusaya. A group of people, including Defence Secretary Kamal Gunaratna, Secretary to the Ministry of Religious and Cultural Affairs Professor Kapila Gunawardana, and commanders of the 3 armed forces were present on the occasion.
The government has decided to double the compensation payments to 500 rupees to the families members of persons who died in a wild elephant attack. Compensation payments to persons who have become disabled following such an attack has been increased to 150,000 rupees. State Minister Vimalavira Dissanayake disclosed this during a press briefing in Colombo today. State Minister Vimalavira Dissanayake said that the Cabinet has approved the increase to the deceased compensation payment to 500,000 rupees to 1 million rupees. He said that so far only 100,000 rupees have been paid as compensation to the disabled. He said that they hope to implement the payment scheme from this month. That's it for tonight's English News Update. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Good night.